Indexes are very easy to create, and there's a couple of ways to do it, and I want to show you those right here in this video called Creating Indexes, by the way. And the first one I want to show you is the T-SQL version, but actually before I do that, let's jump out into the Books Online. I'll just click on Help and go to Contents. And actually, I should have done Index, but I will click it here. And if you just type Create Index, you'll notice there's the Create Index statement. I will double click on that. And all I want to show you, I'm not going to read this to you, but creating indexes, you have a lot of control here. And if I scroll down, you'll notice that the syntax on creating an index, notice you can create a unique, clustered, non-clustered. We've talked about all those things in here, and I'll show you some examples. But as you scroll down, there's a lot of things that you can do. I'll just kind of pull this on down for you. This is something you really should go out and read. So go out into Books Online and just read about creating an index, and then of course you have all these real cool examples down here at the bottom. So that's out in Books Online. So use that resource, take advantage of that. But let's take a look at a T-SQL method of creating an index. I'm going to do this in the Pubs database. I'm going to create an index on the authors table. Well, if I just click on New Query, and it's already put me in Pubs, I can choose it here, or I can just put Use Pubs in my T-SQL. This is not a T-SQL class, so we'll just go on to creating an index. Notice how hard it is to create an index. I just say create index, and I give it a name, and most people will put a prefix of IX so they can tell it's an index, and I'll just call it MTL. So I say create index, and this is just the name of the index right here. What I'm going to use to refer to this particular index. And I'm going to create it on the authors table. Now if I had schemas here, I'd have to put schema name dot table name. Then I'll tell it, I'll put it on the city column in the authors table. Notice if I spread this, I can see there is a city column in authors, and that's what I'm going to create it on. So I execute this, and you'll notice the command completed successfully. Now if you'll remember, a non-clustered is the default, and so that created a non-clustered index on the authors table on the city column. How hard was that to do? Wasn't hard at all. Could that potentially be a problem for me? Yes. If there's a lot of updates on this particular column or on this table, then I could have just started to create some performance problems on my table. So again, you want to be careful about creating these. Now what's really cool is, though, you can create indexes and see if it helps your queries, and then if you don't like them, then notice just how tough it is to get rid of them. Just a slight difference in the syntax. I will say drop index, and I will put the name of the index that I want to drop. And now I just say on the authors table. It'll look at the authors table and figure out that there is an index called IXMTL, and I can execute that, and I just dropped it. I can create and drop indexes at will. It's not going to jeopardize my data. It's not going to harm it. Very easy to do this. Now, that's with Transact SQL. And of course, that's a very simple example. I didn't use a lot of the syntax options and so forth. You can go chase it down, but I want you to see how easy it is to create these things. Now, there's an even cooler way, and that is in the Management Studio. You'll notice that if I go to the authors table in my Object Explorer, if I come down, there is an indexes folder. And by expanding that, I can see the indexes that are already on the table. And notice that I have a clustered index and I have one non-clustered, non-unique index. If I double-click the clustered index, it brings up this little index properties window, and it shows me that on the authors table, here's the index name. It is a clustered index, and here's the column that it's on. It's on the AUID column. And as you notice up here on the left, I can come in and look at my options, included columns. I'm going to sit on non-clustered. Storage, I can see all kinds of information. Fragmentation, we'll talk about this one a little bit later on maybe. Some extended properties. Lots of things to play with here, but just wanted you to see that you can see them. Now if I want to create a new index on this table, I can right-click on indexes and say new index and give it a name here. So again, I'll call it index_MTL. Notice I can choose. Do I want a clustered, non-clustered? I can do primary XML or spatial. Won't get into that right now. We'll just do non-clustered. I can make it a unique index if I would like by checking that. And I just tell it what columns. And I'll say, well, let's do it on the city. Say OK, and then I say OK. And you'll notice I now have IXMTL that's non-clustered. To get rid of it, notice how tough this is. Right-click, choose Delete, confirm my choice, and it's gone. Very easy to maintain and to see these indexes inside SQL Server Management Studio. And if we jump into the AdventureWorks database and we just go grab a table here anywhere, for example, the sales LT address table, I can expand and I can see right away that we have one clustered index, and I can double click it. and get an idea of exactly what's going on in my table here. It'll take a second to pull up. It's on the address ID field, and then I can see that I have some other non-clustered indexes that are being used out there. So very easy to see and manipulate these things in the Management Studio, and I can also use Transact SQL to set up and delete these indexes as well.